Well, good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 188 of the Prancing Pony podcast, where our listeners are lying in wait at the edge of the forest to ambush us with hard questions.
I'm sure one of them will even mysteriously come stand near our fire, but hopefully not disappear or take our horses. But folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the real-life Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the man of the West, who wears neither hat nor hood, Alan Sisto.
Well, I'm also not an old man, Sean. Can we make that as clear as my fashion choices? That would be nice.
All right, I'm sorry. Never again.
Fair enough.
I'm right behind you, so, you know.
Well, fair enough. Folks, today we're going to be taking a break from the text to have a few of our patrons join us for our 13th quarterly Questions After Nightfall. Mwah.
Now, whether that's unlucky for them or unlucky for us remains to be seen. As always, we have no idea what they're going to ask us, so Alan and I are going to be answering their questions as best we can with the resources available to us in our recording nooks.
And whatever resources happen to be between our ears. So
that too.
As with previous Questions After Nightfall episodes, aside from possible edits for nervous coughs or our time spent flipping through pages while we look for an answer, we will be presenting this as it was recorded live. Everything you hear in the show will have been recorded during this session.
And if you'd like to get in on the next one, go check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/prancingponypod. We'll continue recording Questions After Nightfall episodes every quarter, and we're going to continue inviting patrons at the Elrond's Honorarium tier and higher to join us.
That's right. And it's just one of the many ways we're saying thank you to our patrons, giving them the opportunity to get to know us a little better, make us laugh, stump us, and occasionally embarrass us, in the best possible way, of course.
For the most part. They're nice people.
Yeah. They are. All right, Sean. Well, who do we have up first tonight?
Okay. Well, first up tonight, we have Jim from Maryland. Jim, you out there?
Jim.
I sure am. How are you all doing?
We're doing all right.
Fantastic today, sir. How are you?
Why am I scared? I'm scared, Sean. Help me. I think there's a bad pun coming.
I think we might be treated to a very nice song tonight. I don't know.
Oh, maybe. That's an option.
Let's see what Jim has in store for us.
I think I'm done. I don't think I can top what I did last time.
That may be true.
It would be hard.
That's a high bar.
Baritone to record. Yeah, Otrapata. Besides my daughter's already suing me for to be an emancipated minor. What really hurts is that she's 26. She wants it to be retroactive.
God,
so
that's just awful. Wow. Wow.
What I will do is I want to change my answer from the North Wing last time when you asked me what my favorite poem was. I want to change it to the Lament for Boromir because I just finished that episode a little while ago and reread it, and that just about brought tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a powerful piece.
But it really is.
No further ado, on to my question. I was very inspired by the scene at the end of the first chapter where the three hunters sprang away like a deer, ran tirelessly through the night. The only thing that I wondered is what the heck were they going to do if they ever caught them? I mean, supposing that they got a better start and the orcs got mixed up with their roadmap or something like that.
Right.
If they caught them, I know that they said how this is to be contrived, we can't fathom yet, but first we have to overtake them. Well, what was the plan?
What if they had? Yeah.
Yeah.
Plan?
If they had
What plan?
The three of them just waltz into like an army made up of like 3 battalions of different kinds of orcs.
Yeah.
And just
as we'll find out, something in the neighborhood of 250 total orcs, we think, at that point. Before they started breaking off into groups. I think we did the math in the next chapter. But yeah, that would have been a problem, wouldn't it?
It really would have. I mean, I do remember there's when we actually see this from Merry and Pippin's point of view, the Rohirrim hem the orcs in this really cool circular maneuver. Obviously, the 3 hunters could not do that, but there is kind of a cool stealth thing that the Rohirrim do by night, if I recall, and they're kind of like picking them off with their arrows for a while at night. Maybe they could have done some of that. Maybe they would have just kind of like. Maybe they would have not actually caught all the way up to them and revealed themselves. Maybe they would have gotten just close enough so that they could still stay hidden by the elven cloaks and tried to pick off a few from afar. But yeah, I mean, that would have taken a really long time.
I'm actually thinking sort of a Beleg moment, right?
Yeah.
So, he's chasing after the orcs that captured Turin, And he gets to within bowshot, and he just is very strategic about his next choices, his next actions. So I don't know. I mean, 250 is a lot of orcs to take on 3-1, especially after running all night to catch them.
Right. I mean, you figure, okay,
can
you
we catch
mentioned
our breath
Turin.
first?
How many did Hurin cut down at the near Nyathar Nordiad? Like 70?
70
right?
times he uttered that cry. Yeah.
So,
but that was because they wanted to capture him and not kill him. I don't think the orcs would have a problem killing Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli.
That's a very good point. Obviously, they wouldn't kill Merry and Pippin because they thought they might have.
They were the ones they needed to capture, right?
Yeah, but that's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, the only approach I can think of would be the Beleg style, where they'd have to be stealthy.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that they would be able to sneak up on the orcs and be able to see the orcs before the orcs could see them. See might be the wrong word, but be aware of their
They do have the
presence.
advantage in that regard. They know they're after the orcs. The orcs don't know that they're after them.
Yeah.
So they could have.
And they're stealthy, and they're wearing the cloaks, and there's only 3 of them versus 250, plodding orcs tromping along.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta imagine a stealth approach.
But I can't imagine that they think that they can actually take out 250 orcs.
No.
Now, do they not know that there's that many? Are they only thinking of the Isengarders who actually captured Merry and Pippin?
At that point, they may, until they actually see the group, the size of the group on the plains.
Yeah. So that could be. Maybe they thought that it was a smaller group.
Yeah, 40, 50 of them maybe.
Yeah. But even then, they can't have had much hope for actually being able to take them all out. I think this...
Not in open combat, no.
No, they were probably either going to do something stealthy or something a little crazy.
And remember, their goal wasn't necessarily to wipe out every orc. Their goal was to recover Merry and Pippin. So I think they would have gotten to within range, followed them until they camped whenever, which might have been morning, and then stealthily taken out some guards, gotten in and gotten Merry and Pippin, and gotten out, killing the minimum possible, just so they could get away. Yeah,
that could be. It would have been hard.
It would have been very difficult. Yeah.
And it would have been, very small chance of success and likelihood of death.
High likelihood of death. I can hear the Gimli line coming right there.
Right.
With a little thumb and forefinger together and smoking a pipe.
Yeah. But that does kind of underscore the Beowulfiness of the whole affair, doesn't it? They're just going to go do this thing because they have to do it. They're not necessarily, I'm sure they would have come up with a plan, and I'm sure it's something that we just described, but they weren't really thinking that they were necessarily going to win. They just knew they had to do it.
That's right. And they were thinking just one step at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
One step at a time.
That's right. So, Jim, you got a follow-up for us on that?
Well, I was thinking, I was agreeing with you about the picking them off one by one sort of thing. Legolas, especially being a skilled archer, it's just I think he'd be slowed down by the wheel, by the barrel that he would need to carry all the arrows in that he would need, even if every shot counted. So, but I did think of a plan that might work if they could somehow get hold of a wheelbarrow and a Holocaust cloak.
Of course, if only I had a Holocaust cloak. Of course.
That's right.
That's great.
Well, I'm sure they could put Gimli on it in the Holocaust cloak.
Well, you'd have to have Gimli standing on top of
Roberts
Aragorn.
Has come for your souls.
That's right. Run for your life. The Dread Pirate Roberts is here for your sword.
It's not a Prancing Pony podcast episode unless somebody tries like a really good Andre the Giant impression. So
you got to do an Andre. Yeah,
you got to.
I mean, how many times will I be? I don't know. It doesn't matter where. At the grocery store, at Disneyland before it got shut down from COVID, or wherever. Everybody move!
That's right. You got to try it because I would not want you to be embarrassed.
That is great stuff, Sean. Awesome. Well, Jim, I hope we answered your question.
Don't worry. I won't let it go to my head.
Well played, sir. Well played. All right. Sean, who do we have up next?
Next up is Joe here in Texas.
All right, Joe, fire away, sir. Welcome aboard, by the way.
Howdy, gentlemen. Thanks for the welcome.
Welcome for the welcome.
Okay. My question is, do orcs have free will, or can they choose not to be evil?
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Somebody had to go and ask the hard question tonight. Sean, what do you got?
Oh, man. Joe, thank you.
What am I going to do with you, man?
Well, I think the answer lies in whether you think that all the orcs are elves or not. I think Verlin Flieger convinced us last time she was on the show that elves don't really have free will, at least not free will as we would consider it free will. You know, we know this from the Silmarillion that men have a free will that elves do not. Elves are bound by the music and so forth. And we've even used that a few times over the course of this season, haven't we, Alan? We've kind of gone back to that idea that elves are bound by the music.
Yeah,
and so,
absolutely.
I get that that's kind of a sticky wicket to get into, because then somebody's going to come up and say, well, what about Feanor? If he didn't have free will, why are you guys always bashing on him? And I mean, that's a tough
moral
one.
agency and full.
It's a tough one. I'm not saying I have an answer for it, but in Tolkien's mind, there was a difference between whatever free will the elves had and whatever free will men had.
Right. Men had more free will. Not that men had some and elves had none.
Elves had none, but men had more. Yeah.
Right. The music was as fate to all things else, as we know.
Yeah.
And yet we also know that the elves certainly had the wherewithal to respond differently to the circumstances. The circumstances might be what we're fated to be.
Right.
But then they could have chosen to do different things.
Right. So now we come to the orcs.
Yeah.
Because that ultimately lies in where the orcs came from originally. And of course, on this show, we went with what it said in the Silmarillion, which is that they were elves originally.
Right.
Tolkien was not by any means 100% certain of that. If you flip through the pages of Morgoth's Ring, you can find, I don't know, something like 9 different competing accounts of where the orcs came from. Everything from they were elves that were twisted, like we read in the Silmarillion, to they were beasts that were animated with some like sliver of Melkor's will, to they were a mix of corrupted men and corrupted elves. There's all kinds of different possibilities. And it's hard to say what Tolkien had in mind when he wrote Lord of the Rings. And it's hard to know exactly what he had in mind, you know, like later on. Like if he had the chance to finish the Silmarillion like he wanted to before he passed, where would he have ended up? We just can't know. But I think that the question of whether orcs have free will or not, I think it lines up with where they came from. And maybe it's a mix. Maybe they're not all from the elves.
Well, yeah, I mean, that just made me think about the Uruk-hai, for instance.
Yeah. I mean, the Uruk-hai have some human DNA in them, right?
Yeah. So they should arguably have more free will than orcs that are simply twisted elves or descended from twisted elves, right?
Right.
Oh, that's a creepy thought, though.
Well, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many great questions that come up when we think about this, because I think we can all agree that neither Melkor nor Sauron nor Saruman can undo what Iluvatar has created, right?
That's
so if
correct.
Iluvatar has created elves with, you know, a 3 out of 10 on the free will scale, and he's created men with a 10 out of 10 on the free will scale, I don't think that there's anything that any Dark Lord can do to pervert them to the point where that changes. I don't think their nature changes, essentially.
To flip that on its head, though, look at what the Nazgul have done. They were men, but they now have no free will, right? We talked about recently how they have no will other than his own. And it's because they're totally dominated by their rings. So it is possible for the Dark Lords, let's say, to maybe suppress or take away the free will. I just don't know that they can make a move upwards, up that scale.
That's an interesting point.
Since free will is a gift.
If we look at another gift that the 9 had, because they were men, they had the gift of death, and Sauron has...
True.
Sauron has not
taken away
the gift of... He's delayed it.
Boy, yeah.
So,
indefinitely, yeah.
Right. So maybe that word you used, Alan, that word suppress. Maybe...
Thank you for your call. You're very important to us. You are now number 1,873 in line.
Or it's like the scene in Beetlejuice where he pulls the number and it's like 6 feet long.
Right. We will be with you in 3,719 years.
Right, yeah. So I think that maybe Sauron can suppress the Nazgul's free will. Can he completely take it away?
I don't know.
Man, I don't know. That's a tough one. But I think we can definitely see that he can suppress it. So maybe there's something that they can do to suppress one's free will, and maybe that's what they do with the orcs. Maybe they just rule by fear and coercion.
That's the thing, just domination by fear.
Yeah, and maybe there is some magical coercion there too, like Sauron has with the ring wraiths.
I mean, certainly the orcs do have some free will. I'm thinking of what we'll encounter in, now I don't remember, it's book 5. It's book 5. It's when Sam's overhearing the conversations, and the two orcs that are in Cirith Ungol, and Sam overhears him talking about, I'm thinking about taking me and the lads and go setting up some other place, being independent. So clearly they have some free will, but how much?
Yeah. They must have had enough that Sauron didn't totally trust all of them.
Right.
With the ring, right? I mean, we know that
for
the most part, he only trusted the ring wraiths.
Because they had no other will but his own.
Right.
Which certainly implies that the orcs did have a will separately. So therefore, they had enough of a free will to at least be accountable for their actions.
Yeah. Although we'll see that Grishnach actually knows a little bit about the ring. He probably doesn't know everything.
Yes, he does. No, but he knows a little more than I think. I remember researching that chapter, as we'll get to, coming up soon.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a moment in the 3rd episode that we'll cover.
Yeah, where Pippin is pretending that he has the ring, right?
Right. But there's a moment, I think, earlier than that, where there's an implication that he knows something. I remember thinking, I wonder if he was at Barad-dûr when Gollum was. It's when he actually says Gollum, when Pippin says Gollum, Gollum. That's what he's talking about. How would he know that Gollum means he's talking about the One Ring, unless he was aware of or present at the interrogation of Gollum in Barad-dûr?
That's really interesting. Yeah.
That'll be fun to get to.
So most orcs must have some free will, or at least they have elf-level free will, whatever that means.
At a minimum. One wonders if they have a little bit more of that now, simply because over the generations they become less elf-like. They were, once twisted elves, now they're simply orcs.
Yeah, well, that raises all kinds of questions about that whole nature thing.
I know.
Right? Because it's like, that is basically like saying that what Melkor did to them in the beginning is going to stay with them generation after generation after generation, which I guess is what happens, unless maybe they keep on getting re-twisted, re-corrupted. I don't know.
But then you get into questions like original sin, and boy, you could really get into some great discussions here. Far beyond the scope of a QAN, this might actually be a Patreon special at some point.
This might actually be somebody's term paper, honestly, or
doctorate
dissertation. Yeah.
Seriously, this is a thesis.
Yeah. But I do think, I guess to come back to the question, I think that, orcs must have some kind of free will.
They must.
Because we see them act with some independent agency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that ultimately they are corrupted children of Iluvatar. They are still that. And so they must have at least elf level and possibly even human level free will, because that's the raw materials that went into creating them.
Agreed.
I don't think that they're just puppets.
No. Arthur, you have a follow-up. Let me go ahead and get to you. And Joe, I see your hand as well, so we'll come back to you. But Arthur had his hand up first.
Yes, there are two things come to mind. First of all, I'm reminded of the two orcs in Mordor after Frodo and Sam have left the tower and they overhear these orcs fighting, and one of them says, I heard that one of them got the head, the Witch King, and I hope he's right. That does not sound like somebody who has no will of their own.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is certainly true.
On the other hand, I am also remembered of that very dramatic moment at the beginning of Book 6, Chapter 4, at the Black Gate, when Sauron's burglar alarm has gone off, and all of a sudden he's let go of the joysticks that controls the game.
Yeah.
And we hear that, like when the will that operates the ants leaves them just tottering around, his will was withdrawn, and we were given to believe that the orcs and the trolls and all the non-human critters just stopped because Sauron was no longer animating them, but the men were still holding up arms and fighting. And that implied to me that at least the orcs that were there at the battle were animated by Sauron's will. So I see a contradiction. I don't have a clear answer, but I see those two things. Each one points in one direction, but they don't point the same direction.
We will come back to you, Joe, I promise you. But let's take a look at those passages. The one is in the Land of Shadow, Book 6, Chapter 2. And this is the tracker and a soldier. And the tracker is saying, you missed him. First you shoot wild, then you run too slow, and you send for the poor trackers. I've had enough of you, and he loped off. You come back, shouted the soldier, I'll report you. Who to? Not to your precious Shagrat. He won't be captain anymore. I'll give your name and number to the Nazgul, said the soldier, lowering his voice to a hiss. One of them's in charge of the tower now. The other halted, and his voice was full of fear and rage. You cursed peaching sneak thief, he yelled. You can't do your job, and you can't even stick by your own folk. Go to your filthy shriekers, and may they freeze the flesh off you, if the enemy doesn't get them first. They've done in number 1, I've heard, and I hope it's true. The big orc spear in hand leapt after him, but the tracker put an arrow in his eye as he ran up, and he fell with a crash.
Oh, yeah.
So clearly, there's enough sort of hostility between these different groups of orcs that one of them literally wishes Sauron's chief servant dead.
Yeah.
Which is pretty significant.
Yeah, it is. And it reminds me of, isn't there even a comment in the Silmarillion that talks about how the orcs hate Morgoth for having done to them what he did? Yeah.
I'm going to look that passage up after we look up the passage in book 6 from...
I think it's chapter 4. I think I've got it here.
All about the hills, the host of Mordor rage. Go ahead and pull that passage up, and I'll pull the one in the Silmarillion.
Okay, so here's that passage. As when death smites the swollen brooding thing that inhabits their crawling hill and holds them all in sway, ants will wander witless and purposeless, and then feebly die. So the creatures of Sauron, orc or troll or beast spell enslaved, ran hither and thither mindless, and some slew themselves, or cast themselves in pits, or fled wailing back to hide in holes and dark lightless places far from hope. And then the men just kind of gave up and, surrendered.
Throw down their arms and surrender.
Yeah, yeah. So that's interesting. So it's not like they stopped in their tracks. It's not like they're like the
automatons,
the 7 fathers of the dwarves that have absolutely no will.
Exactly, before Ilúvatar gave them free total.
It's not like that. Yeah. It's not like they suddenly stand still, but they have no cohesion. They have no
purpose, certainly.
They're kind of routed, really, at that point. It's like they're demoralized.
Completely. Even more so than the men.
Yeah, and so maybe they have their own free will. They have enough free will, or maybe they have like animal level free will. I mean, that's almost what that sounds like. Like they just sound like beasts running. Yeah, instinct, just kind of running into crevices and places to hide.
But let's keep in mind that is a metaphor. Just as this happens, this happens. So it's a
that's
little
true.
different.
And some slew themselves or cast themselves in. I mean, some slew themselves. That's certainly not animal behavior. Animals.
No.
I'm sure somebody will tell me that there is some animal that does that.
Takes its own life.
That takes its own life. But I mean, that's self-preservation is generally a pretty common
the
animal
instinctual thing. Yeah, you're right.
That's not a terribly common thing for an animal to do. So that tells me that there is some child of Ilúvatar level free will there.
Enough to experience despair.
Yeah, exactly. And suicidal thoughts. But
wow.
They don't have any desire to go on. They don't have anything motivating them to continue fighting.
No volitional motivation, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll visit one more passage, and then Joe will get to you, and Arthur will come back to you. Otherwise, this question is going to dominate the whole show if we're not careful.
I like it.
Here's that passage from the Silmarillion. And thus did Melkor breed the hideous race of the orcs in envy and mockery of the elves, of whom they were afterwards the bitterest foes. For the orcs had life, and multiplied after the manner of the children of Ilúvatar. And naught that had life of its own, nor the semblance of life, could ever Melkor make since his rebellion in the Ainulindale, before the beginning, so say the wise. And deep in their dark hearts, the orcs loathed the master whom they served in fear, the maker only of their misery.
So, I mean, the fact that you can hate and fear your master, that suggests that you've got free will.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, they served him from fear, not because they had no will of their own.
Right.
All right, Joe, what do you have for us, sir?
So I could see the orcs having an elf level of free will. That would make sense to me. But an elf with their level of free will could be good or evil. And when we have examples of that on both sides, Feanor being an obvious example of an evil elf, and Legolas, for instance, being an obvious example of a good elf.
Sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we only ever see orcs being evil in the Legendarium. Is it ever possible for an orc to be good? Like, let's suppose that a nice elf family took in an orc and brought him up as one of their own. Could the orc be good?
The old nature versus nurture argument here.
Yes.
Wow. Sean, that's a tough one.
It is. And I think questions like that are precisely why Tolkien struggled so much with the origin of the orcs later in his life.
Yes, absolutely. He didn't want to think of anybody as totally irredeemable.
Right, exactly. Because again, these were children of Iluvatar in their origin. And he doesn't want anything that Iluvatar has created to be so corruptible at such a fundamental level by Melkor. I mean, these are questions that went straight to the heart of Tolkien's faith as a Catholic.
Yeah, absolutely.
He doesn't want for Melkor, the Satan of his universe, to be able to so irredeemably corrupt a creation of Iluvatar, God, so that it could never be redeemed. I mean, that just would fly in the face of everything he believes.
And because we see how often redemption is a big part of the story.
Right,
here.
exactly.
It's a huge part of the story. So
exactly.
And yet that puts you in the tough spot of saying, yes, an orc could in theory be redeemed. It's just that none of them ever act in a way worthy of redemption, which is not much better of a spot to be in.
Or that the corruption is so deep that while it is not completely irredeemable, it's never been done because it's just so difficult. The corruption is so strong.
Yeah.
That only because look, where does the corruption come from? The corruption comes from Melkor. And so the corruption is so strong that maybe only Iluvatar could undo it. Why doesn't he? I don't know. That raises so many implications that I think just it has everything to do with, what you believe as a person coming to Tolkien's work. And I don't know what Tolkien would have said about it. But I do think that Tolkien recognized that this is an extremely difficult question.
Yes.
That doesn't really have a single satisfactory answer. And I think that's why he struggled with it.
I think so too. There's no doubt.
I know it's kind of a cop-out, Joe, but I just think it's one of those unanswerables,
I think so too.
Well, I see that Joe has just added in the text here about this question of, what happens after they die? If they're elven souls, could they be redeemed by dying? And I think potentially they can.
Long time in Mandas, but sure.
Also, in Morgoth's Ring, there is that bit about the Fea that dies, and then remember the summons and the counter summons?
Yes.
So remember, when elves die, they don't just suddenly blink and wake up in Mandas.
No, they have to respond to the summons.
Exactly. They're disembodied and they're summoned by Mandas to the halls of Mandas, and they make a decision to follow that. And Tolkien says that some elves didn't. So some of the Avari, who never really followed the Valar in the first place, some of them just remain houseless in the world, and they just kind of roam as sort of
disembodied spirits.
But then he also talks about the idea that Morgoth could issue a counter summons and coerce his servants by fear. Again, fear and hatred. Coerce them, but coerce them to come
strongly
back to
encourage.
Strongly encourage under pain of death or death again or re-death.
That's right. Continual death.
Yeah, exactly. He could summon his servants back to him. And then we've speculated before on the show that he could be putting those spirits to all sorts of foul purposes. That could be where some of the werewolf spirits come from.
Absolutely. I mean, that would explain the origins of werewolves or even perhaps of dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Putting, superior elf spirits that counter summons instead of the summons.
Right.
And putting them into, Karkaroth or Glaurung.
Right.
Ooh, man.
But I think what we can take away from that is the idea that if an orc dies, if it was an elf orc and has an elf Fea inside it, when it dies, then its Fea goes through a similar situation. It probably is summoned by Mandos, and it's summoned by Morgoth, or maybe Sauron has this power too.
Mm-hmm.
And who's it going to follow? Is it going to follow the master that it's terrified of, that it knows has all this power over it?
Right.
And go back east towards the Dark Lord? Or is it going to follow Mandos into the west, when this is probably an Avari or one of the other, somehow it's an elf that never really followed the Valar to begin with.
Yeah, descended from. And that's the other question, because how far down the line do these orcs stop being twisted elves and become simply orcs?
Stop being elves and just start being something different?
Right.
I don't know. That's another tough question.
Because, of course, we saw in that paragraph coming out of the Silmarillion that they do reproduce after the manner of the children of Iluvatar.
Mm-hmm.
So they aren't, Melkor's not, or Melkor certainly not, but Sauron's not currently taking, elves off the battlefield and turning them into orcs again.
Right.
That's not happening anymore. They have enough first generation twisted elves to make enough orcs that they can then, remake themselves.
Yeah.
So the question is, how long do they stay elves?
I also wonder if there's some kind of continual corrupting that happens.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
like what do orc babies look like? You know,
that's a good question.
Are they less twisted? Do they have to be retwisted? I mean, these are great questions that are fun to speculate on, but there are just no answers.
No, not firm, solid answers. No. My goodness. Well, Arthur, I want to come back to you. You've been very patient. What did you have to say?
Just a couple of quick follow-ups and observations. First of all, going back to the stuff at the Black Gate, the sentence immediately after you stopped reading that portion about they ran willy-nilly and despaired and jumped off cliffs or whatever, for they were forgotten. The emphasis on for they were forgotten. Without Sauron giving them purpose, they're running around at random, which may involve running off cliffs. I also keep in mind that part of the issue is that Tolkien's thought obviously changed, perhaps even during The Lord of the Rings. I mean, you can look at the Hobbit, where the orcs presumably the goblins, are presumably not under the power of the necromancer.
Right.
And yet we know from when they sing, where there's a whip, there's a will in the movie, they're irredeemably evil. And that's why I would say go not to the elves regarding whether orcs have free will, for they will say both yes and no.
And
of course,
and it's a good point about, relying too heavily on the Silmarillion for a solid answer, because that is
that's true.
An in-universe document, and there could be incomplete explanations there.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that was a fun question. We're actually far enough into the show now that we should go ahead and do our mid-episode break. So before we continue with more questions, even here in round one, we wanted to remind you to visit our website, theprancingponypodcast.com, as we have made some serious improvements lately.
Now, we still have all the good stuff there, show notes and outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings, as well as our online storefront, where you can get PPP shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
One of the best resources we have there is our library page. After all, we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books we mention here.
Yeah, we may talk about a lot of Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, but at heart, Alan and I are fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien. That's why we have the library page with links to every book we've ever mentioned on the show.
And we do make a few pennies from the purchases you make from those links, so thank you for your support. Now, we also wanted to tell you about another incredible project from Jordan Rennells, friend of the PPP and host of the Music of Middle-earth podcast.
Not only is he now our audio engineer, but he's launched a new creative endeavor, Stroke of Simplicity. He's creating elegant line art that is both simple and simply stunning.
And he's even available for commissioned pieces as well, including tattoo designs. So head over to jordanrennells.com/stroke of simplicity and take a look. Now, that's JORDANRANNELLS.com/stroke of simplicity.
You'll be able to purchase existing designs or submit a request for a custom piece. You'll also find links to his music and to the Music of Middle-earth podcast.
So visit jordanrennells.com/stroke of simplicity for a look at some simply elegant line art. And now it's time to head back to the common room for more questions from our beloved listeners.
Let's go with that.
Right. Sean, who's up next?
Next up, we have Lori. What do you got for us, Lori?
Well, hi, Lori.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing well. You?
Doing all right.
Good. That was a really interesting discussion, and I'm not sure that I can really follow up with another deep, thoughtful
That's
question.
okay. I don't know if we can handle another deep answer.
I think we need a palate cleanser after that one.
We do, yeah.
All right, I'm going to give you one. I'm going to give you something incredibly light and fluffy.
Ooh, I like
and
light and fluffy.
Absolutely speculative. There is no right answer to this question.
Is it a unicorn? They're light and fluffy and speculative. Is it a unicorn? Because I love unicorns.
It's so fluffy.
Do you really? I would not have taken
it's so
you
fluffy,
for a unicorn guy.
I'm not a unicorn guy. It was a fluffy thing. It made me think of Despicable Me.
I love them. Anyway.
Unicorns, I love. Yeah, I know. Love that stuff. Such a cute song.
Okay, so here's the question.
All right.
What did Deagle give to Smeagol for his birthday? Because we are told that Deagle already gave Smeagol a present and more than he could afford, remember?
That's right. I've already... Ooh, good question.
What do you think he gave him?
Sean, I don't know. Your subscription to Netflix? I mean, that's probably more than he could afford. No,
probably Disney Plus. I mean,
that's true. Because, you get that deal where if you buy a full year in advance, it was pretty cheap before it launched.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would have been a common gift amongst a people like that, a river folk?
I'm going to go with fishing gear.
Yeah. Fishing gear or yeah. I mean, I was thinking even like some nice hip waders, boots or something like that.
Yeah.
Clothing that would be related to fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go with something along those lines, some sort of water, use thing, waterproof boots,
a Yeti cooler,
a waterproof watch that's, water resistant to 10 meters.
Yeah. Something like that. They like to go fishing together, right? We know that.
Yeah.
So it's probably something like that,
That's what I go with. Yeah. Hip waders. That's my answer.
Hip waders. You don't think he got him like a nice, I don't know, like a nice cooler to keep his fish in or some tackle?
Some tackle? Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
I can see that working. Maybe got him some new flies. Yeah.
A gift card to the sporting goods store? Probably not that.
No. I don't think there's like a Cabela's around the corner.
Probably not.
It takes up like the entirety of half of Mirkwood, Those humongous stores. I love that question.
Do you need anything? I'm going to Cabela's.
Well, fishing season's coming.
Does it need lures, precious? It needs lures, yes.
Oh, man. I'm going to fishing gear. Yeah, that's my answer.
I think so. That fits for me. Lori, that is awesome. Thank you for a much more, shall we say, lighthearted question. Joe, this isn't a ding on you at all. Your question is going to be the one that everybody comments on. So we're all good. But it's nice to, as you called it, a palate cleanser, Lori. Thank you. Arthur, I believe you're next. Am I correct, Sean?
Yes. Arthur is next.
Well, hello.
Yes, sir. What do you have?
Well, I had a number of things lined up. I think I will defer for right now the question of how the story would have been different if when Lobelia, after the birthday party, was slipping small but valuable objects into her umbrella, had gotten her hands on the ring. We'll talk about that another time.
Oh, that's a great one.
Because we can talk about that one now.
That's fun. That would be an interesting one.
I was rereading. Actually, I was reading The Lord of the Rings to somebody, and I came across a passage that all of a sudden struck me as a little bit different the way I read it, and I just want to toss it out for discussion.
Okay.
In Book 2, Chapter 9, The Great River, our heroes are barreling through the Argonath, and all of a sudden, there's a strange voice. Frodo turns and saw Strider, and yet not Strider.
Yes.
Now he's Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and he says, "Fear not. Long have I desired to look upon the likenesses of Isildur and Anarion, my sires of old." I don't want to speculate on why they're both his sires. That's a different question.
That is.
But then in the next paragraph, the light in his eyes faded, and he spoke to himself, "Would that Gandalf were here. How my heart yearns for Minas Anor," a name that has not been used for 1,000 years, and we have not heard him say this before, "and the walls of my own city."
Mm-hmm.
I said, wait a minute. Is he pulling a Paul Atreides and his ancestor Isildur is speaking through his voice here? Why in the world would he not say, "My heart yearns for Minas Tirith"? He's been talking about Minas Tirith the whole time. This just seems it just struck me, I'd not noticed that before, it just struck me as very strange the way this is phrased. It's like I'm yearning for Minas Anor and the walls of my own city, Minas Ithil, which also has not had that name for over 1,000 years.
Right.
And I just wanted to toss it out for discussion to see what people think.
Okay.
It could be just poetic. That's what.
Sure.
When my friend Tevilder sent this as an email message to Mr. Butterbeer, there was some discussion of whether this was just poetry. But I wonder if one could take this and run with this a little bit.
That is an interesting question.
Do we see any other examples anywhere in the Legendarium of people seeming to be speaking with the voice of their ancestors?
Man, that is a great question. Sean, I'm going to let you start because I'm struggling with this one, I got to admit.
I like the Paul Atreides answer, actually. I'm going to go with that. I think Aragorn has taken the water of life at some point, probably in Lothlorien.
Probably. Galadriel's got the Gom Jabbar to his neck.
Yeah. She drowned the sandworm. She got the water of life for him. And now he's got Bene Gesserit, other memory. And he's just speaking with Isildur's voice.
Ooh, I love this. I love this, actually, Sean. This works for me.
I mean, look, you know, I've got Dune fever lately, so of course I'm going to run with this one.
As you should.
Let me think. I remember us talking about this on the show near the end of last season. And I think at the time, my take on Minas Anor was the idea that Minas Tirith is its name now when it's a city at war. And by referring to it by its ancient name, Minas Anor, he's harking back to what it used to be when it was a city, peaceful city, right?
Yes.
Back when it was the city of the sun. Obviously, Anor, the sun, there's the implication of light there, brightness, day, all the wonderful things. And I think he's trying to evoke that sort of past greatness of the city by referring to it as Minas Anor.
Which is evoked by the Argonath itself, right? I mean, he's passing by the likenesses of two people who would have called that city Minas Anor.
Minas Anor, that's right. They didn't call it Minas Tirith. It was called that later. They would have called it Minas Anor. And I think that's what it is. It's a little bit of just, I don't know, it's kind of like the way that people would poetically refer to Constantinople as Byzantium for hundreds of years. Or refer to Istanbul as Constantinople for hundreds of years. I think it's just kind of thinking back to what it used to be.
Even old New York was once New Amsterdam.
Well, of course, yeah.
Why they changed it, I can't say.
And surely there's somebody who's got like a bar or something that's called like the New Amsterdam Bar in New York, right?
Oh, of course.
I mean, I live in Austin, which used to be called Waterloo, and there's like tons of places called Waterloo.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's kind of that kind of thing. He's just kind of like harking back to the history of the place because that's what it used to be, and that's what he wants to make it again.
And I think because he's in that historical moment, I really think that's the context. For me, that's what kind of sets this in stone, no pun intended.
It's not like he calls it that all the time. It's just right now he's thinking about it in that historical context. And what
I mean, he's literally going by these amazing statues.
Yeah.
And it's totally bringing him to this point in history.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, it's not a literal Isildur speaking through him, but it's him harking back to that, no doubt.
Now, this bit about Minas Anor and the walls of my own city, that's a little odd because it's like he's saying, my heart yearns for Minas Anor and the walls of Minas Anor. Like, like the walls weren't considered part of that before. Now he's making sure that I'm also including the walls. I don't think that's what he's saying. It's kind of weird.
That may be more poetic. Like, my heart yearns for my home and the walls of my home. I mean, you're right. That does sound a little odd, doesn't it?
It does sound a little odd. And maybe it's just that he's using that as an opportunity to poetically say, look, this is my city. This is my own city, as in
my own city.
I own it.
As in, I am the king.
I am the king. Yeah.
I am the king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a little odd.
And look at the way he's speaking, though. He is sort of in that more archaic mode. You know how we've observed
true.
Remember going back all the way to Council of Elrond, Aragorn has this ability to sort of match where people are speaking in terms of their tone. Everybody else has their own mode of speech, but Aragorn sort of mirrors who he's talking to.
He's one of those guys who can change the way he talks depending on
He's a little more archaic when he's talking with Elrond than he is when he's speaking with Boromir. But here he's very archaic. Would that Gandalf were here. And then, but whither now shall I go? I think that might be the explanation as to why he's saying this. My heart yearns for Minas Anor and the walls of Minas Anor. Of said city.
You think he's kind of just like he's feeling kingly at that moment, and so he's using that kingly register.
Yeah,
maybe that could be it. I don't think that there is a literal Paul Atreides other memory going on here.
Though I love that.
I love
that. Let's be
and
clear.
I do think it happens in places in the Legendarium. I just don't think it's happening here.
No, Lori, you had something to pipe in on this. Fire away.
Yeah, I did. In addition to what you've already spoken about, I think it goes back even further than the Council of Elrond. If we go all the way back to when Frodo first meets Strider in Bree, he tells him, at first you started speaking to me as one of the Breemen, but now your voice has changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And as we go further south, as we go further in the journey, Strider becomes Aragorn.
Indeed.
In more than, just, oh, that's my real name. He's actually stepping into that role and moving, down the river. And there's a whole body of literature about, the significance of rivers and stories and all that kind of thing. Yeah. But as we move down the Anduin, he's leaving so much of the Northern Ranger behind and becoming the last direct descendant in that line.
Yeah.
And now, of course, I can't help but see the film line with Elrond, set aside the range, become the king.
Oh, geez, I'd forgotten about that.
He does transition. You're right. I mean,
he does.
It's not the sudden transition that Elrond's talking about, but you're right. It is this very sort of gradual change from Bree to Rivendell, then to Lorien after the death of Gandalf, or the apparent death of Gandalf, then down the Anduin, and then again, of course, as we saw in this last chapter with the death of Boromir.
Yeah.
2 chapters ago, I'm sorry. And so he definitely is growing into that role. And this is more kingly speech.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think this is an example of him kind of stepping into that kingly speech. That makes me wonder just how arrogant everybody thought he was when he was Thorongil.
Yes.
Because when he's close enough to Rohan and Gondor to be feeling kingly, and he's just supposed to be.
Maybe he felt young enough at that point that
this random guy
to feel kingly. Yeah.
Maybe so.
Maybe.
He was young. He was probably arrogant for a lot of other reasons.
That's probably true. Arthur, you've got something else to add?
Well, on behalf of our friend Jim in the chat, who reminded me, if we go back to the Barrow Down, when Merry wakes up and says, "Oh, the men of Carn-dûm came upon us in the night. Oh, the spear in my heart. Wait a minute. Who was that talking? I'm really Merry."
Yeah.
Right.
I am not saying that Aragorn is. I mean, I'm just saying there is an example there.
Oh, for sure.
And there's all sorts of different ways to interpret this, but you know me. I want to find the weirdest possible explanation.
Of course you do. But you're right, of course. There are moments where other people are speaking through.
Yeah, there are many moments where people are spoken through.
Usually they're a little more obvious, right? Usually we get some more clues, even with something like, when Tuor speaks and he's, speaking the words of Ulmo, or like you said, when Merry wakes up from the dream and is speaking the words of the warrior then who is killed by the men of Carn-dûm. There's usually more clues that it's somebody else speaking through him.
That it's something. Yeah, we're often told that they didn't know where the words came from or something like that.
Right.
I do have one other thought on this, which is, as I'm looking at the text here, it does say, he spoke to himself. Would that Gandalf were here, how my heart yearns for Minas Anor. Maybe he does just think of it as Minas Anor for some of the reasons we were talking about. It's
maybe,
and maybe when he's speaking to himself, this is kind of something he's muttering under his breath. Maybe.
Yeah. Nobody responds to him afterwards. Nobody says, "Why are you calling it that, man?"
Right. So maybe when he's talking to other people, he calls it Minas Tirith, but in his heart, it's still Minas Anor, and it always will be. And maybe that's why he calls it that to himself.
Yeah. In my heart, it's still Constantinople. I'm just kidding. Now I can't get that song out of my head, but thank you. Chad, you've got something to throw in here.
So at the beginning of his question, Arthur said about both of them are his grandsires, and although he's joking, it does come up a lot. And so I was going to say that I know why he says that, because Isildur's great times 22 grandson Arvedui married Anarion's great times 27 granddaughter Firiel. Aragorn is their great times 15 grandson. And Isildur and Anarion are Arwen's first cousins 23 times removed, and therefore Aragorn is Arwen's first cousin 62 times removed on their father's sides.
I remember doing that math before, but I had forgotten about the fact that he's also descended from Anarion. You said it was Arvedui?
I believe so.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. So there you go. So he is actually descended from both of them.
All right. And Jim, it looks like you've got something to add finally, and then we'll move on. Fire away.
Well, just remember that as the stewards of Gondor pointed out to, I think, Arvedui himself, they figured the line through the father, not through the mother.
Right.
So even though that descent is correct, it in their eyes
still wasn't going to be sufficient.
The kingship.
Right. Yeah, not in their eyes, certainly.
Right. And that wouldn't have been a factor in Aragorn's heritage, but it still does make Anarion his his great to the what?
Yeah.
28th power?
Yeah, the sire, some sort of sire, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very cool.
Another good question. Great little textual exploration. I don't think we totally missed that, but I don't think we spent any significant time on, what do I call it? Minas Anor here. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I said something about it because I feel like I had that in my head already, but I don't remember if we went on and on about it.
I don't think we did. All right. Well, who do we have after Arthur? I think that leaves just Chad, right?
In round 1, it's just Chad left. Chad, what do you got?
All right. Chad, fire away, sir.
Just Chad left.
Just Chad. We're going to list you as that now from now on, right?
You're never just Chad.
Just Chad from Texas?
The Chad.
The Chad.
So I've got a little quote here from the Silmarillion, and it is from the Beren and Lúthien section of the Silmarillion. It says, "And wandering in mind, he groped as one that is stricken with sudden blindness, and seeks with hands to grasp the vanished light. Thus he began the payment of anguish for the fate that was laid on him. And in his fate, Lúthien was caught, and being immortal, she shared in his mortality, and being free, received his chain, and her anguish was greater than any other of the Eldalia that has known." So the question is, what is this chain?
Interesting.
The simple answer is the mortality.
Being free received his chain. Well, that's very interesting because we talked about, the release from bondage, the Lay of Lúthien. We talked about the bondage being referred to there actually being the bondage of being bound to Arda, as elves are. And so becoming mortal in that context is not a chain, it's actually a release. But here it says being free received his chain. So that does sound like, what did she have before she met him that she doesn't have after she meets him? And that's her immortality. So yeah, it does sound like that.
Boy, that is, that's...
It seems like totally contradictory to the concept of the Lay of Lúthien, doesn't it?
It does. There really is no other interpretation for that, though. I'm looking at the text. Being immortal, she shared in his mortality. Being free, received his chain. Clearly this is repeating the same thing, but with a metaphor.
With different words, yeah. It's got to be it.
And her anguish was greater. Right.
Now, is it possible that this is another case of in-universe narrators, elves, writing this story?
That is an excellent point.
And thank you. And from an elvish narrator's perspective,
yeah,
maybe some of them do see mortality as a chain. And she was free. She was one of us. She was an immortal.
Right. But now she's taken on that mortal chain.
We do say a lot of times that the authors of the Silmarillion view mortality as the gift it is, and we're the ones who don't see it that way. But who says that every book in the Silmarillion was written by the same author, right?
Right.
Maybe each chapter has a different author. So maybe this is an elvish perspective creeping in and seeing human mortality as a chain.
I think that's a good way of explaining it.
It still kind of flies in the face of the Lay of Lúthien, but maybe the Lay of Lúthien is written by somebody who knows that she was released from bondage to Arda.
Wow.
I've got no other explanation for it because it does seem contradictory. It's just...
Unless we missed what the Lay of Lúthien really is. If the release from bondage is all the other things we talked about it could be, but I don't think so. I don't think we missed
spent
that.
So much time on it. I feel like
we did a whole episode on that one. We got to have gotten that right.
Yeah. That's got to be it. Maybe it's just there's different perspectives. There's different ways to view the same story.
Of course. An elf is going to view that differently. We know that they see the loss of Lúthien as perhaps the greatest loss of their kind because they'll never get her back, ever.
Yeah.
Every other elf, they'll get back at some point, even Feanor. But Lúthien, they'll never, ever see again. And she was the most beautiful of the elves ever. So
yeah.
I think that loss might taint the scribe who's writing the story of Beren and Lúthien.
Yeah.
To call mortality a chain instead of agreeing with Tolkien in the Lay of Lúthien as it being a release from bondage.
I think that's what it is. And I think Tolkien would have known full well that the same story can be viewed from totally different angles and reported from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Look at, look at something like the Arthurian legend, and the different ways that story has been told over time. And it's usually more or less the same story. The bones are the same, but you get totally different perspectives on it depending on who's writing it and when and what their what their beliefs are, what their worldview is, what their agenda is.
True.
And
true.
so, yeah, that's probably what's going on here, Chad. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. But Chad, you've got something to say to follow up, right?
So I was thinking of maybe, since it says her anguish was greater, I was thinking possibly of the fact that maybe she had to see Beren die twice, assuming that he died first the second time. And whereas when the elves die, they're they can actually see each other again.
Right.
And so I thought maybe what they meant. And the fact that I was thinking of the gift of men would mean that wouldn't be a chain unless, like you're saying, some of the elves see it as a bad thing.
Right.
I don't really know.
Well, I don't know that she would have been aware at that time that she was going to, witness his death twice, but she knew that she was going to witness his death, most likely. And
that would make her anguish great indeed among the elves.
That would, like we think about Arwen and Aragorn and how
Yeah.
she is just totally filled with anguish at Aragorn's passing.
Right.
And she's like, basically, now I get it. Now I get it. And she understands, why this is so hard. Lúthien may have understood that ahead of time, and that might be what that passage is talking about regarding her anguish. That would be kind of where I'd lean, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, I think that her anguish is greater than most elves automatically just because she has to watch her love die. And most elves, they might see them die, but they know they'll be reunited someday.
Yeah.
Whereas she doesn't have that guarantee. So her anguish is already going to be great. Why is it greater than all the others? Maybe because she does it twice, but I don't even know if that's needed. I think her anguish is already greater just because she has to go through it once.
Yeah, she's going to love a mortal.
And at the time this was written, this was still the first one, right?
Right.
So nobody else had gone through it. We hadn't had like a Mithrellis or an Arwen.
This isn't Arwen who's looking back at those who've gone before and say, oh, my fate will be like hers.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not counting Idril because we still don't know exactly what happened to Tuor. But
no, that's true. We don't. I still think he ended up counted among the elves.
I think so too. And that's why I think that she didn't have to watch him die.
No.
No,
she lucked out.
Yeah. Good question, Chad.
All right. Well, that was an amazing first round of questions. And surprisingly, we're already an hour into the episode. So we will get a second round in, but that's probably it. I thought we'd get 2.5, maybe even 3 rounds in. But man, when the questions are this good, it's a little tricky. So who wants to go first in the second round? All right, Jim, fire away, sir.
Yeah, well, to quote Temple of Doom, this will be a short round. First, I want to give props to Arthur for his questions I shall not ask. Back when I was in high school in second year Latin, we had to translate the speeches of Cicero, specifically the speeches against Catiline, and he used the rhetorical device of saying, I'm not going to talk about this, and then he would talk about the drawbacks of his foe. Like he would say, I will pass over Catiline's many affairs with loose women of the streets, and I will say nothing of his many financial malfeasances or the way he kicks his dog. And then he'd pass on to his actual complaints, which are political. So Arthur, in his bringing up the question he won't ask, is practicing that rhetorical device. And I know that you guys like rhetorical devices, based on the talk that you gave some episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I also want to come to the defense of my man Boromir, because in the episode where you talked about his battle and the number of orcs he killed, I believe it was just a mere 20 normal orcs plus 4 of the bonus size ones that he had, at least the ones that were immediately in the area. And they said, well, Huron killed 70 in there. But the point was they weren't trying to kill Huron. They were just trying to lay hands on him. So a lot of those casualties were arms and hands that were chopped off there.
Right.
Whereas they were most seriously trying to kill Boromir.
And he still took down 24 of them. That's a good point. Yeah.
No, and that's an excellent point. And I think we may or may not have mentioned that, but certainly that's absolutely, you can't compare he and Huron because of that exact reason. It's why even we learn later that Merry was hacking the hands and arms off of the orcs when they were trying to be captured. We'll read that in the next chapter.
Yeah.
So, and again, he couldn't have taken out that many of them because, well, he's a hobbit. But he could have taken out 70 in theory like Hurin, because the whole point is they're not trying to kill him.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not really a good comparison, and yet I do recall we did compare him, so oops.
Yeah, oops.
We said we were done beating up on Boromir. I guess we weren't.
I guess not. They really were trying to flat out kill him, because at the beginning of the Uruk-hai chapter, when we go to Pippin's perspective, he is remembering Merry chopping off the hands of the orcs, and then that after Boromir made them fight, he slew many of them and the rest fled. Boromir won and they were driven off, but they'd not gone far on the way back when they were attacked again by 100 orcs at least, some of them very large, and they shot a rain of arrows always at Boromir. So Hurin didn't have to face any archers because they didn't want to kill him. They had to close to hand-to-hand range, and that's what gave Hurin wielding that axe two-handed the advantage.
Right.
So
that makes me think that maybe Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli could have probably taken out a bunch of them if they had done it the right way. I mean, if Boromir took out 24 orcs, then you got to figure Aragorn is at least as good a fighter as Boromir is.
Yeah,
Gimli, I'm sure, is pretty solid
close
fighter, and Legolas is going to be shooting from range, so
might take down 80, but that's only a third of the entire force.
Well, if they knew how many there were, if they thought it was a smaller group, they might have thought it was manageable.
Right. That's true. They very well might. Jim, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just following up on the point where you pointed out that three formidable warriors such as Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli could possibly have taken out a large number of orcs. That's borne up in medieval history in the defense of Constantinople, not yet Istanbul. The Christian soldiers were able to slay like at least 20 to 1 the Saracens that were opposed to them, because they were built like tanks. They had on the plate mail, and you really couldn't penetrate them, and they were able to defend the city. Sadly, there were only about 3,000 of them total against 60,000 Saracens. So
eventually you lose to that.
Yeah.
But for sure, with the right gear and the right higher ground, if you're standing atop a wall or something like that, I can imagine that you can probably.
I have the high ground, Anakin. Sorry,
man.
I just
when he's like
that
6 inches higher than Anakin.
I know.
In the lava.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly it can certainly be done. I guess the question is, could Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli have done it on flat ground? But surely they thought they could do something.
Mm-hmm. Surely they could. All right, Lori, I saw your hand next. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you for the next question in round 2.
Okay, cool. I have a question about Old Entish.
Oh, Old Entish.
Well, I figure you need practice.
The rest of the episode.
Yes. Okay. So we know that Treebeard tells the hobbits it's a lovely language, but it takes a very long time to say anything in it, because we don't say anything in it unless it's worth taking a long time to say and to listen to. Okay. So when he's speaking to the hobbits, he tells them, we're on this thing. What are you doing in it all? I can see and hear and smell a great deal from this la 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 rumba kamanda lind or borume. And that's part of his word for hill, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But a little bit later in that paragraph, he says, what is going on? What is Gandalf up to? And these Burarum. He made a deep rumbling noise like a discord on a great organ. These orcs and young Saruman down at Isengard. So, Burarum, is that the word for orc? Or is that just a noise of disgust that he's making in his throat?
Ooh.
Because it seems that Burarum is an awfully short word for something that's been hacking and burning and destroying his forests for so long. So I wondered what you thought about that.
Sorry.
And usurping, right?
I mean, I can't help but hear that. That's a very good question, Lori.
I try.
I like that. All right, Sean. Boy, it could go either way, couldn't it? These these idiots, right? These orcs and Saruman, right? I mean, it could be anything. It doesn't necessarily mean orcs, does it? I mean, I think it means orcs, but
I don't think it's the whole word for orcs. It might be part of the word for orcs, but in fact, I think there is.
I think there is, but I've also found something. You're going to hate me, Sean. It's in Parma El Delambron 17.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
What do you got?
In that issue, that word is just glossed as an entish noise of disgust. It is not the word for orc.
There you go. Okay.
So there's our answer. Who knew? But it's in Parma El Delambron 17.
There you go.
I like that.
No word in entish would be that short.
No, it would not be.
Yeah. So I did manage to find it here, and it is in book 6, and it's the chapter Many Partings, when they're reunited with Treebeard briefly on the way home. And he does say, and I'm not going to do this in the long-winded, slow Treebeard voice. I'm just going to say it. He says, "For there was a great inrush of those Burarum." So he comes out with the Burarum again. And then he says, "Those evil-eyed, black-handed, bow-legged, flint-hearted, claw-fingered, foul-bellied, bloodthirsty." And then, so he has this long string of Westron adjectives. And then he just slips into what look like Quenya adjectives. More maite, sinka honda, So there you go. He's got this really long string. The word for orcs is this really long string of adjectives, just like...
Right. Which you would expect it to be. And he goes on to say, well, since you're hasty folk and their full name is as long as years of torment.
Yeah.
Those vermin of orcs.
That's the amazing thing about the Ents is like, Tolkien was a philologist, and I'm not going to word nerd out too much here, but...
Oh, come on, man. That's what we pay you for.
Well, I don't really have any specific word nerdery. It's just part of what I love about digging into etymologies, and I imagine Tolkien probably felt the same way, is that a word does tell a story. It not only describes something in the real world, it not only designates something, but it has a whole history behind it in terms of how it came to be in the form that it's in now. And some words go back long before the beginning of written language. And that's what's fun about etymology is you can see the story of a word. And I think there's a kind of pure philology in the Ents in that their language is made up of words that are entire stories. If they're going to come up with a word for these creatures, these twisted elves of Morgoth that run around and cut down trees and do horrible things, they're not just going to come up with a 3-letter word for them.
Burarum, or
even Burarum.
Let alone orc, right.
Yeah. They're going to come up with this entire story, and that's going to be their word for orc. It's just the way their language works, because for them, a word is a story. And so it makes perfect sense that he would have this really long name for them. And I'm really glad that you found in Parma that confirmation that Burarum is just an expression of
sound
disgust,
of disgust.
Right? Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
It's his way of saying ew.
It's those things. Yeah.
Those things. Lori, I did see your hand briefly. Did you have a follow-up on that?
Well, I think you've kind of nailed it there. I think it is important to point out that Entish words, they do tell the story of things.
Yes, the whole story.
Yeah. In chapter 6 there, where Treebeard is giving that list of adjectives, that's not really telling the story. That's just saying he's a thoughtless, mindless, oafish. You know what I mean?
I see what you mean. It doesn't tell the story. It's starting to, but it's not the whole story. You're right.
Right. But it's not like this thing that I stand on and look out at the weather and contemplate my day description of hill.
I can see it being a starting with these adjectives and saying, these evil-eyed, black-handed, et cetera, bloodthirsty, creatures who hack and burn and usurp and who make life difficult for everybody and who we wish would go away. But since you are all hasty folk and their full name is as long as years of torment, those vermin of orcs, that will suffice.
Right.
And then we'll move on. And
maybe that's it. Maybe he's just starting to tell the story and he catches himself. And maybe he just uses a lot of adjectives. And maybe maybe it's not so much that phrase is telling the story, but just that he wants to tell a whole story when he names things. Maybe that's a better way to say that, but that's a good point, Lori.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Well, anybody else want to grab a second question here in round 2? Arthur, all right. What do you have for us, sir?
Well, first of all, I must note I never studied Latin in school, and the only thing I know about Cicero is the song from the musical Chicago. So I'm not going to even hint about the possibility of talking about how the book would have been so much shorter, not if the eagles had dropped the ring in the volcano, but if Arwen had put on Grandma Lúthien's best dress, borrowed a chihuahua from the local Humane Society, and showed up at Sauron's door saying, "Hey, punk, remember us." What I am going to note.
Oh, goodness. That's a picture, man. That is a picture.
Is that there are only two people who had the ring and did not die at the time that they lost it. That's Gollum and Bilbo. And there's been some debate, some discussion as to whether when they lost possession of the ring, they started aging at a normal rate again.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I've heard some people say yes. I'm not sure I see any evidence for that.
No.
And I would like to speculate on the possibility that at some point when the ring was destroyed and all of a sudden Bilbo's his doddering old Baggins and says, "Are you not surprised? The power of that thing was lost," implies that until the ring was destroyed, it still was having an effect on him. Do you think that if Lobelia successfully smuggled the ring out of the house, she could have monetized this by selling the opportunity to hold the ring for 5 seconds and therefore get prolonged life?
Okay. If she could have, she would have.
Yeah, that's the thing. If it could be monetized, Lobelia would have found a way to do it. There is truth to that.
We did talk about the lasting effects of the ring on former bearers in our last Questions After Nightfall. And I think that's some of the stuff that Arthur's alluding to there with the idea that the ring continues to have an effect after the person in question no longer owns it.
Correct. While it still exists. Because you mentioned Bilbo and Gollum, but of course you didn't mention Frodo, who lived after he lost the ring, but after he lost the ring was gone, so we wouldn't have expected to see an effect similar to that of Bilbo and Gollum.
Right. I think the time of possession of the ring is a factor.
Yes, I think it is. Let's look at some evidence for that right away before we even go to that. This isn't about extension of life, but just about effects in general. Okay. Sam was a possessor of the ring for a very short time. Mm-hmm. We didn't see him having the same reaction to the destruction of the ring as Frodo did.
True. Frodo is utterly traumatized by the destruction of the ring, of course, because he was the one who had a hand in its destruction.
Or a finger, quite literally.
True. Bilbo, we don't really see any traumatic effects on Bilbo, even though he had the ring much longer than Frodo did.
We just see the age thing.
Yeah. I think the reason he's not traumatized is because he didn't have to go through everything that Frodo did to destroy it.
Well, first of all, I mean, the question is a hilarious question, but if we want to treat it seriously, the first question is Lobelia would have had to figure out that that's one of the effects of possession of the ring. And I'm not sure she would have noticed that until fairly far along, until she realized, why am I not dead? Why am I passing the old toque and haven't aged a day? I'm not complaining, she would say. But once she did figure out that extended life was one of the things, could she do that? I don't think that possessing the ring for such a short time would have that effect.
I agree. I think if she rents it out to somebody for a couple of weeks, it's not going to have an appreciable effect on their longevity. No.
That wouldn't stop her from doing it.
No, absolutely not.
Except that I don't think she would be willing to give up possession of it. I think that's one of the things we learn about the ring is it's really, really hard to give up possession. I think even temporarily.
It's really hard to hand over to anybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that Bilbo was able to do it was a tremendous effort of will. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it would require, all of Gandalf's assistance and help in order to make him do it.
Yeah.
No, encourage him to do it. Sorry.
I think Lobelia would have discovered the invisibility effect long before.
Oh, far before.
And I think she would have rented it out to people to turn invisible and do ridiculous things.
You want to listen in on a conversation? You want to go steal a thing?
That's what I see Lobelia doing with it.
I absolutely do too. Wouldn't it be interesting if she made a copy of it though and rented out the copy only so that people thought it made them invisible, but it didn't?
She lends out the real ring to some people, and then maybe the first one she gives them the real ring, and then the second or third time she gives them the fake. Oh man, that's funny.
And then they're standing in the room expecting that they're totally invisible. What are you doing here, Joe?
That's too funny.
Sorry, Joe. I just was coming up with a random name and happened to be yours. I'm sorry. Arthur, you have a follow-up for us? Go ahead.
Yes, it's interesting, the discussion of the duration of having the ring. There are some places in the text where it says that the ring was starting to have an effect. It was someone was starting to fade. On the other hand, there is at least one instance where having the ring is a quantum event. Sam had the ring for about an hour or so.
Right.
And yet, what did Galadriel, I think it was Galadriel said, even for a little while, you were a ring bearer, so you get to go to Valinor.
Right. That's true.
That is true. He doesn't have like the negative effects, but he does get the perks.
Right. So that there is some suggestion that you don't have to have the ring long for there to be some.
I wonder if that had more to do with the location where he took it over. Right. I mean, he faced real genuine temptation right away. You know, he had that vision of him as this, you know, the most powerful gardener I am the most powerful gardener in the world. And, you know, I think just on the very brink of Mordor itself, half an hour of possession is probably the equivalent of a few years of possession in the Shire.
So all I can think of with this idea of like Sam has the ring for like an hour and he gets to go to Valinor.
I know, pretty cool.
All I can think of is like that thing where like you can buy like a square foot of land in Scotland, and so you can officially be
you can become a lord or a king.
Yeah, it's like that. You can just like you can have the ring for an hour and you can suddenly go to Valinor.
It's like, or just even like buying one of those flags that's flown over Capitol Hill. It goes up and it comes immediately down and goes in a bag and gets sold.
Right, right.
Like, okay, yeah. So it technically flew over.
Right.
Not the same thing. Arthur, I'm sorry, you've got one more, and then we're gonna move on.
The other thing, and it relates to this, is that while Sam only had the ring for an hour or so, he's the only person in the entire universe, other than Bombadil and Gandalf, who said, "Here, take it back."
Yes,
and gave it up just like that.
I think you're right, Arthur. I think you're spot on.
Yeah, I agree. I don't remember. I think, Joe, did I see your hand? I did. Fire away, Joe. This might be the last question, especially if it's as hard as your last one.
It is nowhere near as hard as my last one. I have a meaning of words question. I see sometimes the word Eldar used for the elven people, and sometimes I see Eldalie, and I'm wondering if there's a difference between how those are used.
Oh, just a little word nerdery there.
That's interesting.
I think it's the difference isn't it Quenya versus Sindar?
No, because Eldar is Quenya too. Because the Sindarin form of that is Ethel. So it's different. I think the Lie in Eldalie, I believe that is a suffix kind of like Rim in Sindarin that means like the folk.
The people of, yeah.
I think that's what it is.
I think you're right. In fact, I've just confirmed that, looking that up real quick. The LIE ending is the people. So Eldalie would be the people of the Eldar. So it would be like saying the English or the English people.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're still talking about the same group of individuals, but one is a slightly more formalized way of saying it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Eldalie would just be the people of the Eldar.
It's like the thing we talked about with, which folks won't have heard who are with us tonight, but people will have heard on the feed by the time this episode comes out. We talked about this with the name Onodrim for the Ents. So there's the Sindarin singular is Onod, which means Ent. The simple plural of that is Enid, E-N-Y-D. So that's just basically just the basic plural of the noun. But they're also referred to not only as the Enid, but also the Onodrim, which is like the Ent
people of the Ents. Right.
And I think that's exactly what we see with Eldar versus Eldalie. The singular is Elda. The simple plural of that in Quenya is Eldar. And then that Eldalie is the Elda people.
Yeah. Good question, though. Fair question. I do think we have time for one more, and Chad has just raised his hand. Fire away, sir.
So I was just going to get you guys to do an impression of Varanwe's shipmates.
Oh no! Oh no! You mean when they show up to when they show up to Mandos? They're like, why'd you pick Varanwe? What did Varanwe do that he gets to be the only one who survived? Why did we have to die for this two-war fellow?
Why are we here? Oh well, we had to kill you. We had to shipwreck you so that Varanwe could end up back in Middle Earth because he has to take Tuor to Gondolin.
I would have taken him. You could have asked me. We could have all just fallen along.
I mean, surely there's room for like a few guys on that trip, right? I mean, safety in numbers, right? How many orcs is he going to meet on the way to Gondolin? Surely having a few more of us there would be helpful for him, right? No?
Yeah, don't worry. You'll get new bodies soon enough. I mean,
Let me show you our selection of new bodies. Choose
Here
one.
you go. Would you like one that's a little taller now? I mean, this one's got some advantages. Take a look.
And for just 25% more, you can have this one.
That's right. That's right.
Got a sixth finger on the right hand. Why that's a good thing, I don't know.
I don't know. It's not if you're looking for the six-fingered man.
True. Can you imagine, though? I mean, like, you're going to be... So Varanwe is like this tool of fate, right? So
right.
He's sent back to help Tuor find Gondolin. And yeah, what happens when, like, these other guys just had to die for this? Like, what happens when they meet Varanwe in Valinor?
Now, that's
later?
The question. It's not just what they say to Mandos, because, he is Mandos, and you don't want to tick the guy
Maybe
off.
You're not going to mouth off to Mandos too
rehousing
much.
You. I mean, you mouth off to him, and it might be another few hundred years before you get your new body.
Especially when you're one of the Noldor of Gondolin, who might have actually been on the trip
might have been
back
on the
east,
wrong
remember?
side of that battle. Yeah, that's a very good point, too. You're like, so I'm going to be stuck here for a bit.
It's like, remember me from that whole Doom thing? Remember when you were talking to us?
I was really
about,
young. I think I was drunk.
I was besotted as if with wine.
No, I was just flat out besotted. I mean, I was so besotted for like days. It was on a bender, and I don't even know what I did. I'm not responsible for my actions.
So is that guy going to mouth off to Mandos? Like, why did you have to kill me? Oh, well, you're this tool of fate. It's the Adam Sandler thing again. Like,
I can hear Mandos,
things that would have
though.
been great to know yesterday.
I love that line. Mandos is probably looking at his list going, we just took everybody out alphabetically. Varanwe was the last one.
Maybe that's it.
So he's like, man, but my given name was like Zazendabar or something.
But yeah, what do they do when Varanwe comes back to Valinor? And they're like,
I think they take him into a dark alley and they have a few minutes to talk.
Probably. Hey man, how was life?
Yeah, did you enjoy life? Because we haven't been enjoying it.
Sure must have been nice to go back to Middle Earth.
Did you meet anybody? Because we can't do anything with our bodies, We don't have them.
And then Tuor, what do they say to Tuor when they meet him? Assuming he actually makes
Assuming he got counted as an elf.
And he's counted among the Noldor. Yeah.
Make it worthwhile, man.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. You can thank us anytime.
What can I say except you're welcome?
You're welcome. And I can't fill in the rest of that song off the spur of the moment, which is too bad because I bet there's something really there. We had a moment in Discord on our server, which, by the way, folks, if you're not a member of the Fellowship of the Podcast, you should be, if for no other reason than the PPP chat in our Discord server, where yesterday we went off on Middle-earth nursery rhymes, and we were just going. Dozens of them.
I'm sorry,
Sean,
I missed
if you haven't been there, yeah. And I think today it was some Disney songs, too. I think they put Celegorm in as, what's his name from Beauty and the Beast? You know who I'm talking about.
Which one, Gaston?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny stuff. Anyway, I digress, but that's good stuff. So you should all check that out if you can. Well, everybody, thank you for the great questions and discussion. We really appreciate you joining us for Questions After Nightfall, and we hope that you can join us again for the next one. Now, to everybody listening, we hope you can join us next week when we will take the worst ride share ever with Merry and Pippin.
In the meantime, the conversation continues all night long at the Prancing Pony. Our fantastic listener community keeps the discussion going in all of our social media spaces. At our common room on Facebook, you'll find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode, as well as updates from us throughout the week. Just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
And of course, we also have some really good discussions going on over at Reddit. You can find us there at r/PrancingPonyPod.
And follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle @PrancingPonyPod. And if you're enjoying the show, please share us and consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
And if you want exclusive content, postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with Sean and me, and episodes without digital ads, then check out patreon.com/PrancingPonyPod, where you can support the show by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. Well, folks, that wraps it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast, but be sure to join us again next week when we get back to the text as we enjoy, or rather endure, 3 episodes with the Uruk-hai.
Endure sounds about right. I'm thinking about all the orc voices we're going to have to do for that. And
I'm going to need some orc liquor for this one.
Yeah, I better make some herbal tea, man. But we do want to take a moment to thank our patrons at the Círdan's contribution tier, some of whom are with us today. James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, Ella in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Josh in Oklahoma, Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Cameron in Nevada, and Ned from Connecticut. Thank you all so much for your support.
Really, thank you very, very much. And we also want to thank the team that helps make the show better. Our barleman, Becca Davis, audio engineer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, Patreon community coordinator and event coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
This show would not be what it is without our supporters and our teammates, so thank you all very much. Now be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, what you call Minas Tirith, to barlaman@theprancingponypodcast.com.
Barlaman's a lot more reliable these days, but we do get a lot of mail, folks. So be patient. We'll get to you as soon as we can. And your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
Now, as always, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time,
farewell, friends.